Good morning, good morning, good morning. Morning to everyone out there. Good morning, Gemma. Broken Justice. Good morning to you. Pippadot. Good morning, Pippadot. Francie. Good morning. Good morning to you as well. I hope we all had a great week. Hope the weather wherever you are today, wherever you may find yourself, is doing well. Here where I am, weather's going to be cooperating, hopefully. Looks like it's going to be in the mid 80s today. So cross fingers, knock on wood that it stays that way. Things I have to do outside today. Need to weed my flower bed before I get in trouble with the HOA. That's my responsibility. They'll mow the lawns and edge the grass and the driveways and sidewalks, but my responsibility pull the weeds in the flower beds. I got to get it done today. It's been busy here in the UK, having a heat wave. It's hot. Ooh, sorry. Broken Justice is stressfully busy. Ooh. No stress here. Try to avoid as much stress as possible. But it's inevitable with life, though. We all have things we have to get done on a time frame, and it can be stressful. Good morning, Gayla. Morning, Will, and everyone, says Gayla. Good morning to you as well. I hope you had a great weekend. Thank you for joining us this morning. Give it another minute here, and then we're going to get this morning's page 2 news going. I'm doing okay. Do not cope well with the hot weather, which is forecast for the next 2 weeks. So staying indoors during most hot hours. That's the way to go. I don't have that luxury though. I have to go outdoors. I have to get the garden flower bed done. I mean, I take care of my raised garden beds in the backyard. Those are perfect. Good morning, Cement Shoes. Ivory Lady. Good morning. Why is it? I have to click on it and it wouldn't come up. Like, why is it? How are you doing, Cement Shoes? I hope your health is improving. And Kitty Q. Good morning, Kitty Q. I hope you had a pleasant week. Glad you could be here this morning with us. All right, let's get this morning's page 2 news going. This is the 256th episode of Page 2 News. This program documents actual crimes, offenses by criminals. Some of the content covered here may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. As always, shout outs to those who helped support this content last week. James P. purchased a mug. Daniel T. and Rhonda both made donations to the investigation fund. Thank you very much again for supporting this content. I appreciate it greatly. Old business, updates, corrections, leftover tidbits from weeks before. Wanda Brazy This is the woman who helped, keep captive Elizabeth Smart. I'm truly sorry for last week's story that wasn't more clear. I said allegedly had been seen in the park more than a dozen times, violating her release. Several of the viewers pointed out that in the news story that I had linked and told people about, that it only she had only been seen there once or twice. The allegations from those who are not listed in the police report are the ones who said that they had seen her there up to as many as 24 times. But the article that I had linked and told people about only mentioned that she had been there once or twice. But regardless of how many times she had been there, she definitely had violated her release, and she knew, and I don't care what her attorney says, but she knew she wasn't supposed to be anywhere where minor children can gather, and she's not allowed in libraries, parks, amusement centers, anywhere where children under the age of 17 may gather. That is a condition of her release, and it's up to her to know that. For her to then say, "Oh, I didn't know I wasn't allowed to go to the park and lure children to come over and talk with me," that's just bull. So, but anyways, I'm sorry for not making that clear. That the news article that only spoke of one or two occasions, and not the dozens that others who weren't in the police report had noted. They made their statements to the Associated Press and to the local reporter, not to the police. And the video camera footage comes from a business that the police did not look at until after her arrest. But she was actually arrested in the park. Make sure that's clear. All right. Question of the week from Rhonda. What exactly is the investigation fund? The investigation fund is a general fund, donation fund that helps pay the bills and keep this channel alive without having to take on sponsorships to pitch you, the viewer, items I don't really support. Sadly, that's a common practice online these days. Creators pitching items that they don't use, and they're doing it only for the money. You'll see this over and over again. It doesn't matter what the content is. Right now, the biggest one and that people are pushing is Temu and Factor Meals. Those two companies are, they've reached out to me dozens of times, both of them, to promote their either the Temu app, get paid $20 for every person that I get signed up, or and Factor earn, you give them a 10% discount or up to 40% discount, and you get half of everyone you sign up who uses your discount code. And I don't use Factor. I refuse to give my information to Temu, who clearly uses slave labor to produce some of the items that they sell on their platform. But those are the two biggest ones. And I'm just using those two as an example. But I don't pitch these items. So I have a donation fund, a general fund where people can donate if they want to help support the content. All right, on to new business stories from around the U.S. News channels and content creators of news channels ignore or won't cover. Ted Bundy, the more you know moment. Ted Bundy, the serial killer, suffered from allodoxophobia, which is a fear of other people's opinions about you. It's a rare social phobia characterized by a rational and overwhelming fear of what people think, according to his former friend and co-worker Ann Rule. Obviously, she said this before she passed, but anyways. But I found an article that where Ann Rule was speaking to the Seattle Post Intelligence, and in that article that you can find in the archive file of the Seattle Post, that where she says that Ted suffered from allodoxophobia, and I didn't know what that was until I had to look it up. Apparently, allodoxophobia is people who have an irrational fear of what other people think of them. And that kind of fits, when you think about Ted Bundy and how he always wanted to put on that he was successful, in business and in college and everything else. He wanted to be the most, looked at. And yes, this is completely different from those who are narcissistic. Yeah, Ted Bundy was definitely narcissistic, but I didn't know. That is her opinion that he suffered from it. Obviously, I don't know. I don't believe Ted was ever diagnosed with anything other than being a sociopath. All right. First story is Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, took to the airwaves to tout the seizure of 27 million fentanyl pills, saying that, and this is an exact quote, Trump has saved 258 million lives. One, there was not 22 to 27 million pills seized. It was closer to 11 million alleged fentanyl pills, which have not been tested according to the DEA. Two, there are only 350 million Americans, about 350 million Americans. Three, there are only around 80,000 active fentanyl users, according to the information that I could find online. The last time around, when they counted the total number of deaths of overdoses due to fentanyl, it came to close to 70,000. It was 68,400 people died from overdoses of fentanyl. Not a million, not 200 million, but just under 70 million overdosed from fentanyl. She repeated it over and over again, each time increasing the number of pills seized, lives saved, and how great her boss and the administration is. In her last one, the cabinet meeting, she looked right at the camera and said, "Get this, media," and then went back to touting an even larger total number of deaths of 258 million Americans saved by the Trump administration and the seizure of these fentanyl pills. Things like this, and I'm not trying to be one side of the political party or the other, but this is just an example of how people remember little tidbits like this, and they become talking points from one party over the other. Look what we've done. We saved 258 million Americans from overdosing on fentanyl. When you didn't, and there ain't that many fentanyl users who are using fentanyl pills. Yes, there is fentanyl that is being, put into other drugs, but that's not what she was talking about. She was talking about fentanyl pills. She said that originally it was like 16 million and it went all the way up to 27 million. And each and every time she spoke about it over and over again, the number of pills increased, the number of lives saved, and then was the cabinet meeting where she looked right at the camera and said the following again, saying 258 million Americans have been saved. You need to understand, you need to call out bullshit when you hear it and see it. And that is complete bullshit, and all they're doing is trying to divide and say, look, we're better than the previous administration on seizures of these drugs, and look how many Americans we have saved. During the Biden administration, there was one individual seizure of fentanyl pills that the Mexican mafia, the MS-13, had smuggled into the west coast of the United States into the port of Tacoma. That was 11.5 million fentanyl pills they found in a container there. And they were working directly with the Aryan Nation. Yes, two groups who hate each other, but they both love money. So in 3 months, they made roughly about the same amount of seizures. Great. We need to keep the pills out of the country, because that is the real scourge, in America, is the illegal drugs that are being smuggled in. Next story is 1st and 30 to go. Former NFL Kevin Ware Jr. agreed to take a plea deal in court on Wednesday, May 7th, and agreed to 30 years in prison for the murder and tampering with evidence in the 2001 death of his then girlfriend, Taylor Pomosky, As part of the plea deal, he agreed to only 2 avenues of appeal: sentencing guidelines and incompetence of defense. That's the same type of plea agreement that Christopher Watts took. Only 2 avenues to appeal: sentencing guidelines and incompetence of defense. They additionally, one of the things that he asked was that they take the death penalty off of the table as part of his plea deal. Parnowski's dead body was discovered December of 2021, and Ware was indicted by Harris County, Texas grand jury in July of 2022 on charges related to her death. Ware's formal sentencing schedule will be Friday, this past Friday, on the 9th. That was yesterday. But he did get sentenced to 30 years in prison in the state of Texas, and they took the death penalty off of the table as part of his plea agreement. Very similar to the exact sentence that Christopher Watts got. $1 million defense is the next one. Luigi Mangioni's crowdfunding fund donations in nearly 5 months after his incarceration. Mangioni is accused of shooting and killing the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on December 4th, 2024, and has been indicted on federal and state charges. Of course they have. Why make it just state? Why don't you just pile on the federal charges on top of it? The December 4th Legal Committee, which has been raising funds on Give, Send, Go for Mangioni's legal defense, announced in a press release that they have raised over $1 million from more than 28,000 individual contributions. The crowdfunding website, the total currently amassed, stands at 1,300,000, 30,000. In December 4th, Legal Committee noted in its release that the median donation from the public was $20. On 3 different court hearings, the state has asked that the account the crowdfunding site and account be closed, and has been denied. They don't want him to be raising millions of dollars for defense. They want him to have nothing. But they have decided, after the 3rd time, they're going to allow and just ignore the fact that he's raising millions for a defense. They are not done with their goal. They have a couple of events that they have scheduled, actually, where they're going to have live music and raise money for the December 4th Legal Committee, which is raising the money for his defense. They would like to get to close to $3 million. Keep in mind that the state and federal government have endless amounts of money to spend. They have all of our tax dollars, and they'll spend them all to prosecute not only Luigi Mangioni, but any one of us out here. If they believe that you have done something, they want to make an example out of you, hell, 900 million, let's go for it. Let's just spend everything in the federal and state coffers to prosecute this individual. And they will. We've seen it time and time again in the legal system. Do I believe Mangioni is guilty of the charges? I'm going to withhold my opinion on if he's guilty or not. But the fact is that when the government tells a private citizen, no, you can't have a GoFundMe or a fundraising campaign because we don't like the fact that you're raising money for your defense, that is absolute shit. I'm sorry. They shouldn't be anywhere near how he gets his money. As long as he's not getting it from ill-gotten means, like he was a mob boss and all the other mafia members, come and give him money, which he's not. Good luck to Luigi Mangioni in his defense, in the act, the charges that are alleged against him. A night he will never forget is the next one. 31-year-old man who requested an anonymity told police that he met a woman who claimed to be a tourist at a bar on May 2nd. The pair went to went to another bar in Wywood before returning to the man's home to have drinks. When he woke up the next morning alone with no memory of what had happened after the drinks, he realized that he had been robbed of $3,000 in cash and his Rolex watch, along with all other odd items from his household. This all took place in the Brickell, Miami area. The woman is described, and I'm not kidding, this is the description, 5'6" with brown hair that could have possibly been a wig, and a tattoo of a cross on the right forearm, which might have been a hemp tattoo, which is a temporary tattoo that, in a couple of days fades off, or a week fades off. With the word mother across the top of the actual tattoo. Online, just going to Amazon and typing in hemp or temporary temporary tattoo, you can find not one but 3 different designs of a cross and the word mother above them as a temporary tattoo. So it, to me, from the description of the police report, 5'6" with brown hair and a possible tattoo on the right forearm, and a tourist, it sounds like he was set up by this woman who then robbed his ass. She probably slipped him a roofie or something in his drink. But he's out $3,000 in cash. But he wants the people to be forewarned. If you're in the Miami Brickell area, be on the lookout for a 5'6" woman with brown hair, possibly, and a possible tattoo. Okay, that just is half the population. But anyways, he wants you to be warned if you're in the area. Please don't fall for this scam. Do you want to ride? Ride the white horse, not the buffalo, please. The man was attacked by a bison in the Lake Village area of Yellowstone National Park on Sunday, May 4th at 3:15 p.m. The man, 47, was gored by the bison after he approached it too closely in the Lake Village area of Yellowstone National Park. The location of the incident, which includes dining and lodging, is where the bison are commonly found in the park. The man was from Cape Coral, Florida. Of course, it's another Florida man. Sustained injury and was treated by emergency medical personnel. The NPS, the National Park Service, is investigating the incident. His friend, who did not want to go on record, was taking a picture of the man as he approached the bison. And he turned to the camera and said, "I wonder if I can jump on the back of one and ride it," as he got closer to the bison. I'm not joking. So if you want to ride the white horse, not the bison. A wild animal in a national park. What could possibly go wrong if you go and you get too close to one of these behemoths? I wonder. He's lucky that he was only gorged and he was able to live, because they could have stomped his ass to death. And then people would call for, exterminating the bison from the national park. But that's what we get in this world, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't they talk about that in the article? What his friend said and what he said to the camera as his friend was taking the pictures, that he wanted to jump on the buffalo and ride it, the bison. Dumb. Serial killer corner. You will die to get away. Multiple human remains have been found along the Connecticut shoreline, yet law enforcement will not yet say if they are the work of a serial killer. Several of the remains showed defensive wounds and cut marks, that the remains may have been cut into pieces. How do you find defensive wounds on a skeleton? knife marks or wound marks to the bones in the hands that shows that they may have been defensive wounds, or knife marks to the bones in the arms, while other pieces of the remains that have been found along the Connecticut shoreline clearly shows signs that they may have been removed by a tool of some sort. Excuse me. But authorities in the area are downplaying the idea that these remains that have been found, again, multiple different human beings, may be the work of a serial killer. I've been following this story now for 2 weeks, and and the updates that have come have all been, here's another forensic individual who has talked about these remains, bones, legs, femurs, spinal bones and stuff like that they've been found along the shoreline. And they're like, okay, this is from a tall person, this is from a female, this one's from a male. Where are these coming from? And then the police just like, nope, it's not a serial killer. Nope, it's definitely not a serial killer. We have no evidence of that. Nope, it's definitely not a serial killer. And it's like, well, who the hell's dumping all these bodies, and why are we finding all these remains along the shore of multiple? And how many is multiple? More than two, and less than 7 billion. But it's somewhere in there. They have not given a complete number to how many individuals, but we know that they are of women and of men, that remains that have been found so far. So it's a story worth following. And I'm going to continue to follow until they either put a name to it, or like, hey, this might be the individual, or a crappy mugshot, something. Next one, Brian Kohlberg. Yes, the alleged murderer of the college students at the University of Idaho. Brian Kohlberg searched online for Ted Bundy, along with the words Bundy style, as well as pornography depicting non-consensual sex in the weeks before and after the 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death at the off-campus home, according to a report by NBC News. Brian also searched for non-consensual pornography with keywords including forced, passed out, drugged, and sleeping, according to the documents, which could lead to a motive of why he would attack and kill these roommates. Brian Kohlberg is even interested in Ted Bundy and the Bundy style. Why would Brian Kohlberg be searching for these things, besides that he's a sick ass individual? But that's according to a report by NBC News. Story number 3 under serial killers still. Herb Baumeister, the serial killer. Identification of Halloran was possible through advanced forensic testing. The genetic genealogy conducted by Orthram Incorporated in an attempt to identify nearly 10,000 remains recovered from the Baumeister's property in the 1990s. Daniel Halloran is the 10th victim to have been identified. This is a significant development in our ongoing efforts to provide answers to the families of those who went missing. Jellison said, "We are grateful for the expertise of Orthram and the advances of forensic sciences that have made this possible." No, there are not 10,000 individuals, 10,000 individual pieces of genealogical evidence that has been found on the farm and land area out back of the home. They have been digging up and slowly, the gully and 2 other wooded areas, along with areas where he may have disposed of other, parts or evidence on the property itself. Again, Daniel Halloran is the 10th 10th individual that has been positively identified. Again, they have over 10,000 remains, pieces to identify. And it may be that they're only 25 or 30 individuals, but they still have 10,000 pieces that they have to work through. And even after the 1990s, after Herb Baumeister was arrested on all this and all this ended, they're still working to identify all of the forensic evidence and everything that they have found. Those are the three stories underneath Serial Killer Corner. Entertainment news. News stories from Hollywood, music, film, literature, and more, featuring moments celebrities wish had never happened, along with stories you as the crime buff may be interested in. You shall die to stay alive. The Conjuring final chapter has been written, and it follows another real-life case of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, taking place in 1986, 5 years after the events of The Devil Made Me Do It, the horror film, the first trailer for which has been released on May 8th. Follows the Warrens as they contemplate retiring from the demon hunting business. But when a desperate Pennsylvania couple reaches out for help with the violent presence of hell-bent on destroying their family, they agree to lend their exorcism expertise one last time. Patrick Wilson and Verna Varmig have played Ed and Lorraine respectively since The Conjuring premiered in 2013. The franchise announced in 2022 that another installment was in the works, and Wilson confirmed with Entertainment Weekly that this would be his last. Will it be the last of The Conjuring as a whole, or is it just going to be the end for Wilson? There is a possibility and a lot of talk in the entertainment field that they may replace both of them with two younger individuals to carry on as Ed and Lorraine, but that's to maybe be seen. But this will be the last one with Wilson, though, Patrick Wilson. Fake or real? Stories shared on the internet passed on to you as real news stories. Some are completely made up. Your job is to sniff out the real story. Answer either A, B, or C in the comments which one is real, the real news story. Again, you don't have to tell me which ones are fake. Just tell me which one you believe is to be the real story. Story A. 62 years ago, a woman vanished without a trace and disappeared from a small city in south central Wisconsin after reportedly hitchhiking with her family's babysitter and catching a bus to Indianapolis. Last week, when she was found alive and safe in another state, thanks to fresh eyes from a deputy. Is this the real story after 62 years? This woman has been found alive and well? Or is this one of the fake stories? Story B. A man only listed as Robbie on a missing person report was discovered and arrested for dodging the Vietnam draft and for charges of filing a false police report in 1960. The man was discovered by going through his sister's Ancestry.com account, pulling census records and obituaries and marriage licenses from the region. Is this the real story, or is this one of the fake stories? Story C. There are now 22 men in the U.S. with the legal name of Filthy X or Filthy Bug. They all gave $22,000 in donations to an OnlyFans model. These men range in age from 18 to 79. This is all for one lucky fan to have a chance of an online date with the OnlyFans model, and for her to say a minimum of 4 nice things about the man and a maximum of 7 nice things. That is the 3 stories. One of these is real and the others are made up. Is the real story A, B, or C? Which one is real? We are looking for the real story only. Again, every one of these three stories has been shared a minimum of 100,000 times online. And each and every one of them has gotten at least 10,000 likes and at least 10,000 upvotes if they were shared on Reddit. But they are not from Reddit only stories. Which one is real? A, B, or C? Kitty Q is going with A. Pippa A. Ivory Lady is going with A as well. Francie is going with C. Men are filthy pigs. Inner Peas, good evening, good morning, and welcome to this morning's page 2. And Inner Peas is going with they're all stories. All stories are true. Lemon Pie, good morning, Lemon Pie. Lemon Pie is going with C. Inner Peas is going to pick C. I see clues in B that make it fake. Cement Shoes is going with A. Which one is real? A, B, or C? The correct answer this week is story A. Story A is the real one this week, and that here is the link to the Associated Press story. Story A is about the woman who disappeared for 62 years. For 62 years, she was missing and was listed on the center. Originally, she was a minor when listed. She was listed on the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. She left her home voluntarily with a babysitter that babysat for her, but not only her immediate family, but extended family members as well. When the babysitter was fired, she decided to move back to Indianapolis, and she took the little girl with her who wanted to voluntarily go with her. So she's like, okay. So she changed her name. She knew that the little girl knew she was changing her name the whole time, just made up a story of where she came from, assumed that identity, a fake social security number, everything. And they were going through online, and they actually found this lady after 62 years. But you think, wow, I think I've heard of one of these stories before. Which one was it besides this woman who was missing for 62 years? Well, ladies and gentlemen, you think story C sounds familiar? A similar story took place in 2024. However, they didn't have to legally change their names, only their screen names on social media, but they still had to donate $22,000 to an OnlyFans model. Only 6 of the 22 men who qualified went through and completed all the instructions. One man from Dallas, Texas, actually won the date with the OnlyFans model online. Again, she had to say a minimum of 4 nice things about him and a maximum of 7 nice things. 22 men gave $22,000 apiece to qualify for a chance to have an online date via Zoom or something with an OnlyFans model. I wish this was a joke, but it's not. $22,000. The other only 6 men qualified because they did not change all of or follow all the instructions. And the only instructions that I can find in the original story from 2024 was they had to give the money to qualify, 1, and 2 was they had to change their name to one of them, like either Filthy Bug or Filthy X, for all of their online profiles. Does that mean that they had to change it for work as well, and that's why they didn't qualify? Because Bob is now Filthy Bug. Well, they didn't do it, so they didn't qualify. But only 6 men qualified. $22,000 for an OnlyFans model to have an online date, and one man from Texas actually won it. If you enjoyed this morning's morning show, please consider subscribing. If you don't, whichever, I want to see you come back for more. And if I did poorly, give this a thumbs down, frowny face. If you're watching this afterwards, please leave, a comment if there's anything you feel that I can do to add to it to make it more enjoyable for you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Oh, yeah. I can't remember what the lady's name is right offhand, but I've seen references to this lady. She's an OnlyFans model. She makes $3 million a month. I don't want to know what she does. I'd never go into the site to find out what she does. I just, if her name just kept on popping up over and over again, in mainstream media, that she makes $3 million a month. And I'm like, what? What is she doing for $3 million a month for these, I'm guessing, lonely, depraved individuals? I mean, I don't know who they are. I don't know what the demographic is. Maybe it's women and men. I don't know. But what's for breakfast, Pippadot? I don't know. I have no plans. Nobody's home. I'll probably make myself some dry white toast, and 4 whole chickens. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's Blues Brothers. But I don't know. I'll probably make myself some eggs and toast. Yeah. I don't know what these people on OnlyFans do. I mean, I've heard stories what people on OnlyFans do, but I don't know how. I don't know. I don't even know if that $3 million figure is correct. Francie, that's the story that's been floating around on mainstream media about this one lady on OnlyFans who makes that much money. I think the first time I came across it was on Vice. They have a YouTube channel, and it was about this lady who she rolls around in Jello or something in a swimming pool, like an inflatable pool in her house. I don't know what else she does, but that's on. She's an OnlyFans like creator, and people pay her money to do this. Hey, to each their own, I guess. If you've got the money, you want to give it to people to do that. I guess that's the way to go. Yeah, I can't imagine either. Well, I am 286 away from achieving my 6,000. Well, let's all make sure if you're not subscribed, somebody put the link to Gemma's channel, and so we can get her up over the 6,000. But we all should be subscribed to Gemma's channel right now, anyway. Well, let's help her, if we can, even if it's with a couple. Get her to that 6,000. For feet pics. Yeah. But in that the Vice like video that I saw, Pippadot, they also had people who they gorge themselves, I guess would be the best way to put it, eating things. They get paid to eat. Like people will chime in and they'll give them, like, I'll give you $100 if you eat a whole slice of cake or something. And they just do this. They gorge themselves with excess amounts of food, on these things. Thank you, Interpeas, for putting the link to Gemma's channel there. Even if it's one or two more, or maybe this will actually get out there and we'll get some actual real views on this live stream, and people will say, "Hey, I want to subscribe to that. I'll throw her a subscription, or subscribe, not prescription, or subscription." But I mean, just think about it, though. I mean, it may be the wild, wild west of the internet, but there are some really crazy freaking YouTube channels out there. If you go down that rabbit hole, things that are, definitely adult content, they're all earmarked to, adult, restricted content. There are YouTube channels out there. They go right up to the edge of what YouTube will allow, and without stepping over that line. And there are gossip channels. They'll do anything and everything to destroy another person, or even if they're nobody in this world. Lonely old paper boy, delivering papers. They'll just shit talking for months, and that's the content that they decide that they want. Hey, the guy who works for the city council, I think he, might be, stealing money. Completely made up accusations, but they'll do everything to make it sound like it's real, and it's gossip. It's all lies. No actual founding information behind it at all. But people tune in and watch that. It works. I mean, everybody has a right to an opinion and to say whatever they want. I mean, look at Pam Bondi. She's, according to her and the administration, they just saved 750,000 of 3/4 of the population of America from dying of fentanyl overdoses. 258 million out of 350 million, or 340 million, or whatever it might be. I don't know about you, but I wasn't planning on doing fentanyl this year. But it's a good thing that they seized those fentanyl pills, because they saved me and you and you and you. Thank you. High crafted evidence. Crafted evidence sent you an email. I've been crafted evidence. I've been looking for your email. I'm going to give it to you again. I'm going to type it in the comments here, and make sure you're copying it correctly. And there is a possibility that I may have typed it in wrong, but that is my email address. 411nowbusiness@gmail.com. I've been looking for it, for the email. There is, the only thing I've gotten in the last week in that email address is a bunch of spam, and then every once in a while I get an email from my friend Rupel. Pam is a badass, Will. Well, I hope to actually get the email. Well, crafted evidence, please send me an email. That's my email address, 411nowbusiness, no spaces in there at all, at gmail.com. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to hit the microphone there. Thank you, Inner Peace. Yeah, but shoot me an email. It all depends upon the availability. We'll see what we can work out. And what the content or whatever you want to do is. I'm always willing to to consider it. I can't guarantee that. I'm trying to be as nice as possible. I have had people who have reached out to me before and wanted to do videos on cases that happened in their area. It's like, hey, there's it was a homicide that happened in this area, but there's almost no real information out there. I mean, yeah, I could do FOIA requests and stuff like that, but then again, the other person can as well. Well, thank you. I look forward to getting your email crafted evidence. I do request autism and disability topic video. I recently did a "What does disability acceptance mean" video. Gemma, I had somebody reach out to me who wanted to do something similar about that, but they wanted to do a video with me about how my son actually was determined to be on the autism spectrum, and what kind of background or what was how to put this. They wanted to know what the procedure is to get someone like my son tested and to be found on the spectrum. And I'm like, well, first off, we can do the video without having to talk about my son in his particular case. We can do it about this. And they just didn't want to, veer out off of that. They wanted it to be about my son and his autism. And I'm like, well, I guess we're just never going to be a meeting of the minds if you want to make it about my son and his barriers only. We can talk about and do a video about the actual topic of testing and everything that goes into it, what age and how JFK Jr. is completely full of shit and will not be able to cure autism by September 1st. But we can make it about that. But no, they kept on going back to, well, I want to have the humanization of it. I understand that part, but I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. So that was just one of the many people who have reached out over the past, about wanting to do collaborations, videos or live streams. Oh, that may have been me. Crafted evidence. I may have actually, I've done that in the past. Or in the word business, flip the I and the N, so business is spelled wrong. Sometimes when I get busy, and I type things, I don't see exactly until it's too late. And I'm like, oh, I transposed those two letters. I mean, I'm typing and I just like, oh, my fingers didn't quite work the correct way. So it might have been me. I have done that in the past. I will admit to that. Well, I think crafted evidence. I think everyone has a unique perspective if they're familiar with the situation, case, or whatever it might be. You'd be surprised. And sometimes this is something I have always done. I like to find cases, where and I'll know the ins and outs of the person, the perpetrator, the victim, and everything else, and I'll explain it to someone who is completely not even interested in it, and then just to get their feedback on what they feel and what questions would come to their mind about it. You might find that even doing that gives you a better insight into the actual situation, because what they have, there's something called confirmational bias, where somebody will hear one thing and here's where the actual facts are, but they heard this first and they'll believe this before they believe the actual facts. Again, example, 258 million Americans have been saved by Donald Trump and the administration from fentanyl overdoses because they seized 11 million fentanyl pills. They will believe that 258 million Americans were just saved from fentanyl overdoses without doing the logical thing of like, how many Americans are there? Huh. So like, how could he have saved 3/4 of America or more? They hear this and they, without thinking over here what the actual facts are. So I mean, back to what I was saying though. I mean, sometimes I'll tell people a story. I have a lot of people that I kind of bounce things off of, like things that I know a lot about, cases and stuff, and just to get their feedback on it. My wife is not one of them. She does not want to hear an unhappy story again about someone who murdered her family. But anyways, I have driven her completely bonkers, and she's just like, "Oh, do you not have a rainbow story?" Is what she always tells me. Or before I start, she's like, "Is this a rainbow story, or is this a Satan story?" I'm like, it's a unicorn story? I don't know." But Will, didn't you used to have an email that had 45 RPM in it? No, 33 RPM. And yes, that is my personal email address, Pippin. I used that to communicate that email address with fans of the fans and extended family and friends. But not 45, but 33 RPM. Yes, I've had that email address since basically the internet started. A lot of people have tried to buy that email address and that domain name off of me, but I won't sell it. I could have made a lot of money, over the years by, if I would have just sold off because I own the website, the domain name, all of it, and then the email address and other social media links that, and variations of it. So if you ever see it out there, I'm not going to give the whole thing out, but I own all of it, and I pay for the licensing, and I make sure, damn sure, every year that that I renew it, and that everything's kosher, and that the website hasn't gone, dark, with no new content. So, yeah, you'd be surprised at, the things that I own, copyrights on, and trademarked. Sometimes I think that I'm spending money, in the wrong places altogether. You should just put it into this instead, or save your money. But to keep people away from infringing upon my area, I've done these weird things like that. Will, I'd love to work on a video with you. We would have lots to talk on. Gemma, yeah, of course we would, sweetheart. You'd like to talk to Gypsy Rose? Good luck with that. The only time that Gypsy Rose wants to talk is when she has a national audience that she can speak to hundreds of millions to. I know not me personally, but I know quite a few people who have tried to reach out to her. They either, if she does want to talk to a smaller news channel or something like that, she wants to get paid. She doesn't want to give away anything for free. Yeah, Pippin. But, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up this morning's page 2 news. I want to thank you all for being here. But before you go, hold on, put the brakes on. Tomorrow is Mother's Day in America. I do believe in a vast majority of the world, it's Mother's Day, but it may be a different day depending upon your country. But tomorrow is Mother's Day here in America. Tomorrow, I am doing the trivia night, as I always do on Sundays. But tomorrow night's trivia night is all on a subject matter that you may find to be, in poor taste. All right. It's all on mothers who have killed their children. Mothers who have killed. The trivia night was suggested by multiple people and to be on Mother's Day, not any other Sunday of the year, but on Mother's Day. And one individual themselves stepped up who was on, in the beginning here for people who have supported the content, the past week. One of those individuals has paid to make sure that no ads run on tomorrow's trivia night during or after for the first month afterwards. They have paid. They made a donation. They asked me how much it would be, and I gave them a ballpark figure, and they went to the high end of that ballpark figure as a donation to make sure that there are no ads. All right. If you see ads tomorrow at all, or for the next 30 days afterwards, that's YouTube, not me. I have turned off monetization on the entire thing for tomorrow. So you might be wondering, get my notes out here. Mothers who have killed. Who is on there if you want to read up studies for tomorrow night's trivia? Susan Smith, Andrea Yates, Casey Anthony. I'm just reading off the names of the mothers who have killed who are on tomorrow night's trivia. Diana Downs, Lacey Spear, Christy Sheets, Lisa Snyder, Samantha Moore, Deborah Jeter, Shaquan Dudley, Kelly Murphy, Christy Freeman, Sarah Barras. Those are just some of the names that will be on tomorrow night's trivia. Mothers who have killed their own children. They may have killed more than just their children. Maybe they killed a spouse and then their children, or they plan to kill more. But those are the general, there are 20 questions, multiple choice, all displayed on screen as always. And we do it at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 o'clock Mountain, 7 o'clock East Coast, midnight in the UK. All right. For the time that I do trivia, this will be the 356th episode of Trivia Night. Again, I hope to see everyone there. If I don't, I hope that everyone has a terrific week ahead. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart for all those who have supported this content with either channel membership or given donations to keep this, this channel alive. And just being here. Just being here and commenting and watching along means the world to me. Thank you very much. In the meantime, you all have a great week. Bye. Kitty Coo, I will post the names in the community section so you can actually read who will be on tomorrow night's trivia.